You shouldn't get your information about what's happening from Gaza from Hamas, because they're lie, misrepresent, they conflate numbers. There was a lie that spread quickly. Nobody checked it. Of course, our media, we know about the media, but Israel had facilitated trucks. They've always sent hundreds of trucks into Gaza. They always have. They haven't held back on food and medicine and electricity or water. They haven't held back on that stuff for years and years. And the world always says there's a genocide. That's right. And remember that in 1948 there was roughly about 800,000 Arabs living in Israel, and the invading armies, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, multiple, I think there was 5 or 7 armies that were trying to kill the Jews in 1948. Their military leaders, trained by the French and the British, they equipped also, they sent messages to the people living in that area, and they said, you should clear out, you should vacate because of the massive annihilation we're going to bring upon the Jews. We're going to drive them into sea. We're going to exterminate them. So these people left their homes. These Arabs, for the most part, a few stayed behind, and they said, we don't want to leave our homes. But those people that responded to the instructions of the military Arab leadership in 1948, they all became refugees, right? And there was roughly 850,000 of them at the time, and they purposely kept them as a bargaining chip, not allowing them to repeat. Not the Israelis, but the Arab countries did not allow them to become citizens in other Arab countries. They kept them in a permanent refugee status, and they put them in camps, and they didn't let them come to the other countries, right? And people don't know that, but the lie that they tell today is that Israelis drove them out of their homes and made them, and stole their homes and stole their land, and that's just not true. And interestingly, there was about 850,000 Jews altogether in all those other countries, Morocco and Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. And those other countries drove out the Jews and sent them packing with just what they could carry. They became refugees, and Israel assimilated them and absorbed them the way you should, right? So all that to say, that's the basis for this issue. But like I said, there was, say, 800 plus 50,000 or whatever Arabs living in Israel as refugees, and their numbers have increased now into the millions. There's over 2 million, right? I mean, just in Gaza. And then there's, I think, a couple million in what they call the West Bank, Arabs, okay, living in that chunk of territory that really all belongs to Israel. But my point about that is, if Israel, they really don't know how to do a genocide. If they start with 800,000 and the numbers increase, and they're putting those people in the Knesset and on the Supreme Court panel of judges, and they're doctors and lawyers, and they just achieve all social freedom and political and religious freedom throughout the land of Israel, there is another word that they grossly misapply, is apartheid. They have no clue what apartheid is. It's a Dutch or a Boer or an Afrikaans word for apartness, and that was enacted in Africa, in South Africa years ago, and then of course taken out and stuff like that. South Africa is kind of a mess right now. It's really a horrible, scary mess. But there's nothing like apartheid. Total misuse of the term. Total misuse of the term genocide. Total misuse of the term occupation. There's no occupation. The Israeli military moved out of the Gaza Strip in 2005. There were Jews that had prosperous homes and businesses and farms and beautiful homes, and they had graves and synagogues, and their people were buried there, and they had these very prosperous lives. And the government of Israel forced the Israelis, the Jewish Israelis, out of the Gaza Strip, literally dragging them, arms and legs, kicking and screaming, forced them out of the Gaza Strip and gave the entire Gaza Strip to the Palestinians to try and get peace. The same day and the next day, the Palestinians tore apart with their own hands everything that was Jewish. All the greenhouses, all the farming, all of the everything that was built by the Jews, they literally tore it back out of with their hands to show the world, or to show, really, I think, just to show each other how much they hate the Jews. But Israel has not, there has not been that military thing. And of course, we know that the Palestinians used it to dig tunnels. They took billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of dollars from the world and the UN to build these tunnels and to get rockets smuggled in. And they've sent thousands and tens of thousands of rockets into southern Israel, okay? So there has not been an occupation, okay? So those are just terrible, terrible terms. But I say all that because, Israel has tried to bring aid into the Gaza Strip, and Hamas has shot a lot of the Palestinian people that go to get aid, and then they send a message out through the news that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, are killing these people coming to get food. And there are people in our town. I saw a protester guy the other day. I love it when we did our demonstrations, right? But did anybody see the demonstration? What was there was a No Kings demonstration. Okay, but one day there was another guy on the other corner. It was Thursday. I was heading south, and there was one guy out there by himself, and he said something like, "Liberate all of Palestine." And man, I just wanted to engage the individual, but I was like, I got someplace to go, and it's not going to do any good. Reason and logic and facts and all that stuff bounce off. People that think that the Gazans are they deserve their own state and all that kind of stuff. So as I talk about these things, I hope you know that they're not political issues. They're biblical issues, because we're Bible people. We know it's the end times, and we know that the Jews are God's precious people. We know that he will never change his heart towards the people and the land of Israel, right? So these are biblical issues. But also